Okay, this is my next project. I had this in the storage area for I think 3 years, and I had picked it up just up the street. I don't remember trying to turn it on, and I had totally forgotten about this. What this is it's an RCA new orthophonic high-fidelity stereo phonograph. Unfortunately, the raccoons got this one, and they didn't hurt the wood, they didn't hurt the amplifier or anything, but they ate the speakers. Now, the grill cloth was already ripped, so that wasn't a loss, but the raccoons were living under it, and they completely ate the speakers. So the speakers that are in here now are out of a Hammond organ. They're Jensen special design. They're very similar. They look like the exact same baskets. So that's what I'm going to use. I do have to get a tweeter for this one. So I'll have to find a couple tweeters, and I think I'll salvage them out of an RCA that's out there that I've already ripped other parts out of. Now most orthophonics have the grill cloth with the horizontal slats going across the front, where this one has like a provincial cabinet style where it looks like doors. And somebody on YouTube had the orthophonic cabinet with the slats, but they had the accessory speaker that would have matched mine. And I'm going to look for you and try to send you this video. Now this one is set up a little different than the Motorola was. And again, I think they wired it wrong, or at least they wired it stupid. The tweeters were wired together in mono, along with this woofer. Then the second woofer plugs into a jack on the back of the amplifier for the other channel. It doesn't make any sense to me to make the bass stereo and the highs mono. It should be the opposite way around. Of course, when I rewire this, I'll split it, and the one speaker will be one side, the other speaker will be the other side, and if you wanted an accessory speaker, you would just unplug one entire speaker. Outside of the front of it, the rest of it is identical to the normal orthophonic cabinets. You got your orthophonic record player, turntable in great condition, and your typical amplifier. Your light, which shines both on the inside and through the outside. But this orthophonic has a rare special feature that's very rare to find. Where you would normally store the records, they have the optionable AM/FM tuner option, which is probably worth more than the whole unit. Now, I do have a couple questions for you guys that have worked on these before. Will this multiplex stereo, or is it just a mono radio? It says stereo orthophonic high fidelity right there on the tuner's panel, RCA Victor, but there's no light that says FM stereo anyplace. And being as old as it is, I don't know if it would have had the multiplexer or if it's something you had to add later. I don't know if there's a way I can modify the receiver to make it stereo, or if it's even worth it. But that's the cherry on top right there, is having the radio component in with the unit. Now on Matt's Motorola, what I had done is I mounted a component tuner to the back, like an inch below the thing, so, and plugged it into the auxiliary, so his radio is actually here, and it plays through. Well, I can't power this up because, unfortunately, the raccoons ate the speaker wiring as well, and I'm going to turn this over and show you the inside. already broke loose the record changer. The clips were missing. I didn't want it to flop around. Cabinet's actually in very good shape. Shouldn't be any problem restoring that. I'm going to tip this up so I can get more light. This goes a knob. We have the record storage area, which is housing the AM/FM radio, and I see tubes down there. Of course, I see a CAN capacitor that I probably got to replace. And I have an antenna lead, and then I have two antenna leads here, and the raccoons ate them. And I'm thinking one of them goes on this. This one was stapled, it's got staples in it. It would be a dipole and be stapled around the inside of the cabinet. And then the other one's got to probably go on here on the screws on the back. Why there's two actually going to the radio tuner, I don't know. That's what's kind of odd. So I got to wring that out. The second problem, of course, was the speaker wiring, which I already figured out. From the amplifier, I've got a black and a yellow, and they were connected to this, which is actually the terminal strip from the original speaker, and this was connected here. And then this speaker had a short cord with a headphone jack, which came out. I don't know if that's going to show up, but there's a headphone jack on the back of the amplifier there. But see, they got the two tweeters set up to make it stereo, but they're wired together. So when I rewire this, I'm going to separate those and put the right tweeter with the right woofer, the left tweeter with the left woofer, which will plug into the jack on the back of the amp. If you want an accessory speaker, you can use a Y adapter and run both, or you could plug in. The amplifier's got a lot of tubes, and it's got two big-ass CAN capacitors. Surprisingly, there's no rust on anything. It's very clean in here. Like I said, the speaker cones were gone. I had these Jensen speakers out of the Hammond organ. I'm sure they will work fine. They're the identical ones that are also in the Wurlitzer jukebox, which also has a bad tweeter on one side. So I may swap one of those. I am curious what this adjustment here is for. Is this a gain control for the phono input or something else? I know a bunch of you guys have done the orthophonics, and I'm curious about that pot that's there. There's the audio output transformer. Like I said, the speaker leads come out there. And tubes are all in it. Let's see what the tubes are. Probably original. It's an RCA 1958, 26th week. So it made in USA. So this is a 1958 stereo. 5Y3. V6. And this one looks a little newer. Like it was a replacement. 6V6. Okay, this is the, these must be the outputs. So these have to match. And then these guys are 6CQ7. I want to make sure I put everything back, because until I get these things done, to be very gentle. This is a Sylvania 6FQ7. I'm willing to bet that the 6V6s are the output tubes and they're a matching set. The 5Y3 is probably the rectifier. I don't know that much about it. I just change the capacitors and hope for the best, and if not, Radio Days would have to take it from there. Now there's also a power transformer, so it must not be a series type set. As for the radio, it looks like I got 4 bolts that hold it down into the record storage compartment. So essentially this radio doesn't necessarily have to be used on an RCA unit. In fact, where it plugs into the amplifier, I just have your old time typical RCA 3-pin plug. Just like the turntable. So yeah, that was the cherry on top, was having the radio in this. Other than that, the cabinet's in good shape. Maybe this was the antenna. Something with that. I'll just buy a dipole and staple it around the cabinet. These blocks must have actually been shipping bolts at one time. There is just a slight bit of delamination on the veneer at the very bottom. And I'm not a purist by any standards, so all I'm going to do with this is run a little piece of molding, 1 inch high, right here, probably just to the height of that chip, maybe match the angle of this, and then round it under and cover that up, because it's chipped up pretty good on both sides of it. And it isn't worth reveneering and stuff like that. I also got this cracking here, which is really odd. And the only thing I can think that was is it's very possible that we have, you know, a piece of wood down to here, and then possibly a particle board core. And the particle board may have slightly swelled, cracking this. I think, though, I can just sand this out, and it'll be fine. This is actually going to be my own personal record player, so I don't need it perfect, but I want it to sound fantastic. Oh, now I found another extra knob. Well, maybe these were all supposed to have these little caps, but I found one. But they look good without them. Well, one was missing from one of these, like that. Kind of strange. At least it doesn't have moldy knobs. The only really bad spot is right here, and it's not into the wood, it's just the finish. But since I'm not going to strip, I'm just going to color the scratches in and lightly sand and put a couple coats of finish right over the top. I may have to do some pretty heavy duty work on the edge of this top. But the field is just over finish that. So there it is. I did remove the grill cloth just because it really looked bad, and saved a small sample. I'm going to take that to Radio Days and get something close. And now I forgot, but I'm pretty sure that the pattern is supposed to go up and down. like that. So there it is, my next project. I got free reign of the wood shop for a week, so I'm going to refinish this cabinet while I can, while nobody else is around, and then I'll worry about working on the electrolytics and the wiring. So yeah, the optionable radio. Like I said, if anybody knows whether or not this thing will actually do stereo, it has a stereo cord going out with 3 pins, but it doesn't have a stereo indicator lamp. But yet it says stereo orthophonic on it. So I'm curious about if that FM will be in stereo. 1958 RCA Victor Orthophonic stereo phonograph.